Hiya! Thank you for joining me today. Today I wanted to tackle a subject which was posed to me through my website on the forum there by Stella. And this is the subject of being called out for being a crossdresser, trans, something along those lines. So basically where you are challenged by someone you know, or maybe a stranger, more likely to be someone you know, and you need to respond to that person in some way. And the question really was around how I would deal with that kind of situation and plans and that kind of approach. What would you do as a sort of general approach to having that kind of circumstance come up? So I wanted to just summarize this very, very quickly, because for me, there are a number of different ways in which you can address this, but it comes down to a couple of fundamental points which we can, I guess, go through here now, which is that, to my mind, you have a choice of how you respond. You will either respond out of self-preservation, or you might be comfortable enough to respond with the truth. And really it comes down to whether you're surprised or whether you're prepared for the question. You know, we can have very different responses based on whether we are caught in a particular surprise moment or whether this is something that we kind of knew was coming and we could have planned for, which is obviously much more preferable. My view in general is that my plan has been for the last couple of years, if challenged, I will simply tell someone the truth. Depending on what their question is, so different types of questions get different responses. The straightforward question, are you a crossdresser? The answer I'm going to give is yes. I'm comfortable giving that response. If the question is, do you shave your legs? The answer is going to be yes. Again, quite comfortable. If the answer is, why do you shave your legs? Now there's some wiggle room. Now, I've got it down to one of two possible responses. One is because I'm a crossdresser. The other one is because I don't like body hair. Either way, they are straightforward, blunt, plain answers. There's no prevarication, there's no concern and worry about how I should deal with this, because I've got very, very simple, straightforward responses to give to these questions. And I'm quite happy to go straight to, I'm a crossdresser, it's something I do you want to talk about it? If not, off we go. And I'm quite happy to live in that kind of responsive world where you have a planned, set, structured reaction that you're going to give to people. Now, I'm in that space for a couple of reasons. For me, I feel no guilt about who I am and what I do. So I don't feel guilty for being a crossdresser. I don't feel that my cross-dressing somehow impacts other people, or I don't feel I need to worry about the emotional torment, we should really say emotional torment, that this causes other people. And I don't have any need to feel like I should address this in a different way. I don't have that at all. So I want to just tell people. And if they don't like it, that's their problem. That's the space I'm in, and because of that, I have this freedom to have this response. Now, this has kickbacks. It has something of an impact on the rest of my family. It might be someone who asks me this who knows my family, knows my wife, knows my daughter. And it means outing myself. But we've had the conversation, and if someone is at the point where they're going to say that to me, to ask me that question, I see no point in denying it. I don't feel guilt for it. I don't feel I'm ruining anyone's life because I'm doing this. I'm certainly not ruining anyone's life. And I don't feel like I should have to hide it. So we've made our, let's say, joint decision that that is what I will respond if asked, if put in that situation. Now, if it was a stranger, maybe it'd be slightly different, but I think my response would be the same. Again, if a stranger is going to do that, then I think I don't really worry about what a stranger might think. They're a stranger, that's half the point. It's more the relationship, the connections. A lot of us will socialize in very, very different circles when we're cross-dressed than when we would normally, simply because we don't want the two to overlap. And therefore, what a stranger thinks doesn't really matter to me. It's much more about what a person I know, family member, friend, etc. would think that's more important. But like I said, I don't feel any guilt about family members. I don't feel any guilt about friends knowing this about me. It doesn't concern me if they have some kind of emotional torment that they're suffering based on what I do and who I am. So I tend to view this as being my thing. If you're not on board with it, you can keep that knowledge to yourself, or you can feel free to share that with me once. But I'm not going to change what I do for you, and I'm not going to feel somehow put upon to change my outlook on life based on other people's opinions. What I'm doing is not wrong. It is benign. Doesn't invade anyone else's life. There's no reason for anyone to feel, let's say, a negative reaction unless that's what you carry around with you. And if that's the case, I'd rather know that, because it means I don't have to socialize with you anymore. I'm quite fine to accept those consequences. Not a problem for me. So, with that in mind, that's great if you're where I am. If you're not where I am, if you are concerned about your friends, family, what they'll think of you, I wanted to raise one thing, and this is a theory of mine. There's nothing proven about this. I've not read about this. If this is an existing theory and someone wants to update me on where I can find links on this stuff, then great, feel free to do that. But it's just something that I have floating around my head. And I'll give you an example. When I see a violent homophobe, my immediate assumption is that they are gay and ashamed of it. They have gay fantasies and they masturbate to those gay fantasies, and they feel guilt and shame for that, and they bury it deep down, and it manifests itself as violent homophobic behavior. There's a quote from a really good history book about it's the quote, I'm paraphrasing, but the policeman who beats the prostitute with the lash is consumed by the burning desire to use her for the crime he is punishing her. Essentially, people take out their own internal frustrations about who they are on other people that are openly living their lives in a way that they fear they might want to do internally. So essentially, punishing other people for the things you want to do is a cathartic way of releasing that instead of doing the thing you want to do. It's twisted, but I think there's something to it. Similarly, if you're worried about how your children will react to you or how your partner will react to you, it mostly comes from the fact that we've hidden this. We've hidden it from our partners, we've hidden it from children, we've hidden it from people we know. I have a theory. I suspect that in our hiding, we may have gone the other way. So far from simply being neutral on the topic of cross-dressing, it's possible that we have projected a viewpoint on cross-dressing that is negative. And it may be that in a desire to hold back our to hold back suspicion, to allay suspicion of who we are, it's possible that we have, as individuals, given people the impression that we have very different beliefs to what we know is true about ourselves deep down inside. And if that's the case, it is possible that if you're concerned about how your children will react, if you're concerned about how partners, friends, etc. will react, it's going to be coming from the knowledge that you've lied to them, guilt and shame potentially about how you've lied to them, concerns about whether they'll accept you for who you are, and maybe concerns that they'll be intolerant to you. And I've always had a little bit of a suspicion that in our rush to hide our true natures, we might be feeding intolerance in those around us to a very minor degree or possibly a very major degree. And if that is the case, I would have two pieces of advice. Number one, when you're challenged, lying is pointless. If you're challenged, you're put on the spot, I think it's always the best policy to tell the truth in that situation. Whatever comes of it, I don't know many people, if you're directly challenged, you've clearly given enough of an indication for someone to feel that they should challenge you in that way. And if that's the case, I don't see how lying is necessarily going to help you that much. But if you're in the luxurious position of being able to prepare for this, do you have the time to look at yourself and to come to terms with who you are? To leave the guilt behind, to accept who you are, to accept that what you are is natural, and to feel comfortable with who you are in the world. From that comfort, can you project a different viewpoint to your family, to your friends? Can you show them a different side of yourself that is that perhaps sets them up or preps them for that day when that day may come? I think there's something to that, particularly with kids. I think it's far more likely with kids. Children are impressionable. They, as much as they rebel against us, and you're always going to have that problem of a child may, as well as you raise them to accept who you are, they may just totally rebel against you because there's some things you just can't control in life. But I think it's within our power to a certain extent to try to project a positive view of cross-dressing. And if you project that into your family, if you project that into your friends, if you project it into husbands, wives, children, etc., and you project positivity, you will be setting yourself up, in my opinion, for a more simple, positive, structured conversation where you can say, look, I've been representing this community. Even if I'm not dressed, I'm not visible, I've been representing it and I believe in it. I support it. I don't feel guilty. I think there's something to be said for owning your own response before you worry about what other people's reaction to that will be. I think there's something in that where we can all learn something to a certain degree from that. So that's my general viewpoint. I think it's a very complicated question. I think if you have the time to prepare, make the most of that time. Do what you need to do to prepare yourself. Do what you need to do to be able to set things up for a more favourable outcome. It's always the best thing to be spending your time doing, if you can, in small ways. Very small, incremental baby steps, always the best way to tackle things. If you're simply taken off guard and you didn't have the time to do that, I advise honesty. You never know. The fear of someone's reaction is always present. It's omnipresent. It's like the fear of crime is worse than the statistical crime. I think the fear of people's reactions is worse than the reality of their reactions, for the most part. So that's something just to bear in mind. Anyway, it's a very interesting question. I think it's one that is difficult to know quite how to... I can explain what I would do very clearly. I've got my truth ready. I'm ready to tell people. I would be happy to share this proactively with people I know. The only reason I don't do that is because I don't need to. You know, I'm not changing my name, I'm not changing my lifestyle, it's a private thing. So I don't really have much reason to share it. It's private outside of this. And by the way, if there are any members of my family or friends or whatever watching this right now, hello. If you suspect it's me, and you think you know me, then come talk to me. Come say hi. I don't mind. I'd rather talk about this than, you know, anything else. So let's go with that and see what happens. Anyway, very interesting question. I hope this has been useful. I'm sure some people will disagree with me about having responsibility for other people's viewpoints. But I do think if you have the time to prepare, there's a lot to be done to prepare yourself. But I think there are things you can do to prepare others for understanding that you might have a different viewpoint than what they expected. And I think that will help long term in being ready for this. Other than that, the nightmare scenario is you're simply challenged on the spot. It's abrupt. And if you don't have an answer ready, you know, you're probably just going to blurt out a denial. And long term, that will lead to, I think, fairly predictable results. Let's put it that way. Anyway, thank you for joining me here today. A very, very interesting question. I want to thank you, Stella, for that question. That was posted to me through the forum online on the website. So you can post me any questions you want to ask me there through www.julietnoir.uk. If there's any comments on this video, if you want to follow up with any questions from this video, please let me know in the comments down below. Please do feel free to like, share and subscribe to my channel. If you want to ask about anything else, as I said, go to the website, or you can reach me through my email, which is julietteisnoir@gmail.com. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you all again soon and hearing from you in the comments. Thanks so much, and as ever, bye! Bye!